Karen Birchall, Creative Katie here. Welcome to my channel, Mixed Media Creations. Take time to hit the subscribe button, and when you click on the bell, you can choose the option to be notified as soon as I upload. That way you won't miss any videos. Today we have a video in the 12 Days of Christmas series. If you wish to support my channel, you can do so by shopping my Amazon influencer links or donating directly through PayPal link. Both of these links can be found in the description box below. Thank you so much for all your support. So what you're looking at here are some trees that I cut out using the Plaid printed papers that I created in one of my Build Your Stash videos where I show you how to use the gel plate to make plaid. So I'm going to put a link to that video and you can go check that out. I do different color combos and I have tons of them. So I'm going to do this on an 11 by 14 canvas board, and these are great because you have a hard surface. Now I know I'm going to entitle this one Plaid Tidings, and I have the trees. So the only thing I need to do here is create a background. So I am going with a tried and trusted color combo, and this is Prussian blue that I'm putting on right now, and this yellow green. Any brand will do. I'm wetting it just to get it to move a little bit. I don't want this completely blended because I am going to be doing the plastic wrap technique on here. Because I want the plaid of the trees to stand out, I want color on the background, but I don't want a whole lot going on in the background because I want the plaid to stand out. So I wasn't sure what color, and I thought, okay, these two kind of look, it should be kind of a neutral sky background. So that's what I went with. Initially I was going to do this on a large canvas, and I chose to do it on smaller because I was unsure. So sometimes you test out your ideas. So here, because when the paint is still wet, I am putting on the plastic wrap and I'm wrinkling it up because I want all those wrinkles to show, or at least at this point in time, I think I do. I will also put a link to the technique tag video where I show how to use the plastic wrap technique with a lot of different mediums, because you could totally do this with other color mediums, not just acrylic paint. So you can see all the interest background that I have. Now the thing I'm feeling right now is this is just a little too bright and it's going to really compete with my focal point. So I'm putting a coat of thin white acrylic paint, you could use white gesso, on this, and I'm just putting it over, and I'm going to take off a lot of it with baby wipe, and basically that's just going to push the background into the background. And while there's going to be some interest on it, you can still see some of those creases. It's not as much as there was starting. Now, if I was using a different focal point, I may not do this step. But if your background is too bright and you're afraid of that, this is a quick, easy technique that you can use. So I'm drawing this, and I really am loving the background. And right about now, I'm thinking this is the perfect background for another project that I have. So I'm glad I experimented because I have nothing to lose. So now I'm trying out the orientation of these plaid trees and the color combos. I don't want two that are too much alike. I want some difference. I want them all to pop on the background. And so, I'm just playing with that. I'm also playing with how I'm going to arrange them. And one of the things that you can do to help yourself here is take pictures. Set it up one way, take a picture. Set up another way, take a picture. And then once you have an idea, once it's down there, you can just look at the pictures and make the best choice. Now I'm thinking the background is still a little too plain. So I grabbed this block that I got at Michael's. I haven't seen it on Amazon. Otherwise, I'd give you a link, but you could use another foliage cube. I'm thinking about using that stencil, but here I'm just stamping with wet acrylic, and it's a mixture of Hooker's green and the Prussian blue, which gives a really dark evergreen kind of green to it. And I'm thinking, okay, I want this to give the feeling of the Christmas tree because that's my foreground. So then I'm edging the sides with the same green just to kind of frame my work. And to be honest, I probably am not sure what I want my next step to be, so this is something I often do. And in fact, if you've finished a page and you're not sure about it, this is something you can do, is edge it, because quite often it closes in the page and really gives you that finishing touch. So I'm measuring out the quadrants on this, and I'm not sure if I'm going to have them in different quadrants yet. And as you can see, the orientation of these trees and the words has already changed. Now I got out the frame and I'm marking where the frame hits because I'm thinking I want to make this so that it can be framed, but I don't want the frame to cover up too much of the painting. So I did this with a Stabilo All pencil, and I'm just using water on a brush to activate it. And I just want to see these lines. At this point, I'm not sure whether I'm going to keep these lines as part of the finished piece, but with the Stabilo All pencil, because it's not permanent, I can take a baby wipe at a later step and erase it if I don't want it. So now I'm getting into where exactly I want the trees to be. And suddenly you have yet one other orientation. And I'm absolutely loving the look of this. Now on the one tree, I've already done some shading, and I'm using Prussian blue here. And I chose to do Prussian blue on all of them because I know Prussian blue goes well with pretty much any color. And I want to make it cohesive. And I wasn't sure at this time whether I wanted to go as dark as black. So I'm using the angle brush and I'm shading and I'm putting those lines in. Now you can draw those lines in if you're unsure that you can just freehand it. It's a possibility, but doing it kind of upside down like that seemed to be easier, and I don't care if they're all identical. In fact, I want them to be a little bit different. But you can see the interest that it adds to these trees just by doing the shading on the outside edge. Oftentimes I do the shading after it's already glued down, but I chose not to. Now I need a trunk or a pot for my tree, so I grab a gel print that has a lot of brown in it, and I cut out a shape, just kind of eyeballed it, made a shape, and I like the round corners. It kind of goes with the roundness of the boughs of the evergreen tree that I have. Now I'm just using gel medium to glue all these trees and the pots down. And I'm really liking the look of how this is coming together. You know, a lot of times you don't have a complete idea of where a project's going, but don't let that stop you. Just keep going, and the creativity tends to take over, and often you solve the problems. Whereas if you waited till you thought you had all the answers, you may never get to create. So I kind of give myself a mid-mark. With the ruler, I mark the center of each box, but I'm not going to attempt to be perfect. I just kind of eyeball it. And I'm putting the gel medium on the canvas board as well as on the background. And then I'm smoothing it out with my fingers. I find that I can get every little nook and every crease out. So I put the 4 trees on the sides down this way. And you can see the shading really makes it pop from the background. If you go back in the video and look when I just had the tree there, you know, the shading made a big difference. So I'm trying to place now, before I glue these 3 trees in the middle down, I want to place my letters. So I'm going to use graphite paper, and it's like carbon paper, and you just put it under and you trace on top of it. And usually I do it with a ballpoint pen. I find that it gives a good imprint. Now, because the background is very busy, it makes it very difficult for me to see. So I end up retracing a couple times and then taking my Stabilo all pencil and making it darker before I go and paint it all in. And that's what I'm doing right now. Alternatively, you can print them out on a printer and cut out the letters. You can use letter stencils. And any font will do. So I start with my liner brush using thin black paint. And then I think, oh, maybe I could use my fine line bottle. And while this worked, I think I'm faster using my liner brush. But you do what works best for you. If you have this cut out as a stencil, or you have letter stencils, you can just stencil it on and get the level that you want. I do get back in screen here in a minute. Now, like most things, I'm not showing you me painting out all the letters or shading all the trees. The video, what I captured, although it's all sped up to about 4 times the speed, that the whole video that I had was about an hour 20, and probably another hour was spent to doing this 11 by 14 canvas. And I tell you how long it takes because I want you to know the time, because when we watch these videos and they're sped up, it gives a warped sense of how long it takes. Now that I have the letters in, I am positioning the 3 trees in the middle and putting them down with gel medium. You can use Mod Podge. Get the matte version because then wherever you put it, it's not going to have that shine. I prefer gel medium, and I prefer the Liquitex brand. But again, that's personal choice. I just always make sure I get it with a 50% off coupon. So once I have this all done, I am thinking that the trees need to be shaded with black. I didn't go with black before at the beginning because I wasn't sure I wanted to go that stark. But once the letters were in and they were done in black, it just needed a little bit more. So what I'm doing is I'm shading on top of the trees like I did before, as well as on the canvas right beside the tree. So it gives a little more depth to the trees. And you can see the difference from the blue to the black. And, but again, that's a personal preference. But sometimes if you don't know what you're going to do, you don't know exactly. And I like to keep some of my options open. Now, if I was doing this again, and I could do like a single tree on a card, would make beautiful Christmas cards. Or I could do, 3 trees on a smaller canvas or on an art journal page. I could skip these steps and I would just shade with the black right off the bat. And again, I could have shaded all at the end after I glued it down. Alternatively, and here's what I'm showing you, you can use, like, this is a woodless charcoal pencil or a Stabilo all pencil and activate it. And you're going to get a similar effect. So if you can't do the shading technique or the float technique, you can achieve the same effect in other ways. But it is really important that you do shade it and make it dark, because that's what's really making your focal point trees pop off from that background. Now I'm just edging it with black, because before I had edged it with that leftover green blue paint. And I've decided, I'm going to keep the lines. I think that's adding an interesting detail. And I'm just doing the float technique with the black. Back, another word about the shading. The woodless charcoal pencils work really, really well. They're not permanent, so if you're putting varnish on them, that's why I'm doing more of the float technique with the acrylic paint, because it will be permanent. Here I've got the gold paint in my fine line bottle, and I'm just outlining the letters in gold. One, I need a little bit of bling on this page, and two, it goes really well with that center yellow Christmas tree, and it works together. One of the rules of thumbs of a lot of art journal pages is that if you have a color somewhere, you should have it somewhere else. So now I'm using white, and I'm just adding a little bit of white highlights using the float technique. You could just put little marks with a white gel pen if that's what works for you. And as you can see, I'm turning the canvas this way and that way to make it easier for me to do what I'm trying to do. These canvas boards are really great because you can put them in a frame. I pop out the glass and I just put them in instead. Or you can just have them hanging on a ledge or resting on a ledge or a plate easel. Now I want to add some gold stars, so I'm just getting out my gold paint and painting the paper gold. I was thinking about making plaid stars and mixing it up, but I thought, you know what, I've got enough plaid going on. I'm just going to go solid. So I trace out the star and do multiple cuts at one time. And test. So I'm really liking that. Again, you've got more yellow going in, and it really balances the whole thing. I toy with the idea of putting the stars not at the top of the tree, maybe on another project. And I'm gluing them down, and I realized that if you put gel medium on top of gold, it will, because it's matte finish, it dulls the gold. So after the first one, I kind of wiped up the top, wiped it off, and then I just tried to put the gel medium underneath. And just made sure it was perfectly glued down without putting some on top. Because I want that bling to shine through. I also took my micron pen and did dashes around the stars. And you'll see that in the final pictures that are coming right up. And I decide that I need some splashes, so I get out some gold paint, thin it down, and I'm using my fan brush. I always test it out on the side to make sure I'm getting the size of drops that I want, and I splatter the gold, and that just kind of ties it all together. Give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, check out the pictures coming. Bye for now.